So here we are for part 2 of our 21 projects for 2021.
We've already started doing the projects. So we really have to get this video up. It's been like the thing we've had to do because we keep having nice days and we keep having to go do the things that we're talking about doing. So, yeah, here we are. It's like 9 o'clock. Something. It's dark. It's dark.
Yeah, we planned to do the video today because it was cloudy and rainy, so we couldn't do stuff outside.
Didn't want to. Did not want to. It was nasty.
Did not want to, and we had this to do anyway. But then we have these windows behind us, so the light was a little bit too much, even with the clouds. So we're doing it this evening.
Yeah, works out a little better. So we'll just jump right into it. We are making a new home for the chickens. I think we talked about this a little bit in part 1 of our video, but they aren't going to stay in the barn long term. They may very well go back to the barn, but as of right now, we probably have some barn repairs we have to do, and it's just going to be super, super inconvenient and dangerous to have them out there. So.
Yeah, last fall, we made a resin shed, the kind of kit ones that you can get from most hardware stores. Reinforced it with 2x2s on the inside, a framework of it, to make sure it doesn't blow away. And it worked out pretty well, did great through the winter.
Well,
so
yeah, the weekend we finished it, we had a windstorm with sustained winds of like 120 kilometers an hour. So like, hurricane? And we're like, that shed is just going to leave. It's just not going to be there. And the shed was totally fine. The gates were all busted. But the shed was fine. So now we kind of know that it can withstand a lot. So we went ahead and bought a second one, which was a disaster. We'll show you. It's not been an easy project so far.
I'm sure the neighbors thought that shed was not going to be there in the morning. We weren't positive that it was. But we were glad to see that it was still standing in the morning, and we know what to expect as far as building it and reinforcing it. So although there were a couple other options that we could have gone with, we figured the devil we knew was the better way to go. So we've got another one, the exact same shed, and we're going to do it again and move the chickens a little closer to the house, so right beside the duck yard, which will make our lives a lot easier, and we don't have to worry about the barn falling on them anymore.
Yeah, which isn't like, we're probably needlessly worried about that. But we do have to make some repairs that are right where they are now, and it's going to be so much better to have them away. And for predators as well, it's nicer to have them closer to the house. What else about that? Yeah, so basically we're calling it a poultry palace because the other one is the quack shack. But basically we put up the shed, we've got a run around it, we put in a guillotine door. For the chickens, we're going to have to do some nesting boxes as well. But once you reinforce the insides of these sheds, I mean, they're studded. It's really easy as far as construction projects go. So we haven't even built them yet, and I'm not worried at all.
Nesting boxes, roosting bars, they would, I guess, be a problem in a resin shed if it didn't have that wooden framework inside. But we are doing that, so it's not going to be hard. We're also going to put probably a window box, a little flower window box on the side of it, on the one we already have as well. Just for aesthetics, but...
Yeah. And more windows. We are finding they're getting hot, which was amazing all winter. We had absolutely zero concerns about temperature, but it was also a mild winter as far as what we get here. We didn't have minus 40, I don't think we had it once, which again, we don't normally get too much of it, but anytime your climate includes an expected minus 40, I mean, you have to do things a little bit differently. So we didn't have to worry about that, but now it's getting kind of warm. So we're going to cut, some more windows in it and probably have summer windows and winter windows. And yeah, I don't know. They're, for the price, they're pretty good.
Yeah, we'll contact the manufacturer, see if we can get some of the actual windows that go for it. And then we can alter those and just have different sets. That would be the ideal thing. If we can't do that, we'll make something and it'll be fine.
It's not super hard to cut into it. I imagine. We had to cut a couple of them, didn't we?
You could just take the circular saw, cut right through those panels.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm excited.
Okay, so this year we're going to be expanding the dog yard. It's something that is going to affect our daily life, where the yard is and how it is. We want to move it, not only just to give them more space, but there are some trees that are there that they're not getting the benefit of the shade of, just because it's a little bit away from the fence. So we're going to move it, their fence a bit further, let them have that shade. We might also have to do some other things for them, just so they're a bit more comfortable out there. They do like it out in the sun, and there's certainly a breeze that helps them out, but it'd be nice to just know that there's like actual full-on shade that they can always find.
Yeah, and water for some of them as well. We're going to put in a water feature for the lab. I don't know if we've gone over it yet, but we have dogs are a little bit different on our homestead because we have more than most people, and beyond that they are directly connected with how we make money and feed ourselves. So if you haven't seen already from the farm, I mean, like, we're getting there with some things, but we're not paying the bills with duck eggs. So we do have another business, and our dogs are directly related to that, and so they play a bigger part in our lives. So I mean, when we're talking about adding in 2 different dog yards and expanding the one we've got, I mean, a big part of our life revolves around the dogs. So it's just a little bit different for us. But we're gonna expand it. We're gonna have a couple different areas because we got a couple. I mean, they're all getting kind of old at this point. We've got, the youngest is 8, turning 8, and the oldest is somewhere 12-ish range. We're not really sure. So we're kind of gearing up for having like essentially a dog nursing home here in the next couple of years. We've already noticed even today there's a little bit of confusion going on with some of the older ones. So it's going to be a little bit different around here as we have some aging dogs. So, yeah.
Okay, so this year we are going to be fencing the property. So we have on our east side, the roadside, there's a bit of wooden fence there with some sunken metal fencing. Then there's the rest of it is T-posts with sunken metal fencing that's almost completely invisible now. It's under the ground. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the other 3 sides of the property. And we have the fencing now. We have access to some T-posts from the barn. So we're going to be building that this year. So it's going to be pretty big proposition. The sides, the long side of our
1,700 feet total we have to do.
1,700 feet for those 3 sides. And so we'll do that. And mainly we're moving this up on the list because not only because of dogs that kind of run around sometimes in the area, and coyotes and the regular predators, and trespassing and whatnot, but also we're going to be putting in trees along those lines, so it's going to be harder to do this job later. Mm-hmm. So we really want to get it in now and just know that it's done. And it's not going to be the prettiest fence, although we are going to do some things for aesthetics on it that most people would think is ridiculous. But once those trees grow, that fence is going to be invisible to us. So at some point we'll build a new fence on the other side of the trees. That'll be the pretty fence, and will be for keeping our livestock in. Yeah.
Our biggest issue is that we've already had it happen this year, and actually this is a funny story. We should probably just tell it as vaguely as we can, but we've had snowmobile trespassing issues. It's not a problem for most people because they can see where the property stakes are, but you do get that select few people. Again, I don't want to paint snowmobilers in a bad light at all, but I think as most people probably know, there's always that couple people who seem to want to ruin it for everybody, and part of our property just became a highway for snowmobiles, and we had a couple presidents of local clubs come out, and they're all like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let's help you with this as best we can." But we were pretty sure we were going to lose one tree at least because they were just driving right on top of it. And I have a picture I can actually show of that. And I anger stomped out there one time with, I've got like snow fence in one hand, and I've got all these poles and stuff, and because it was like 3 feet of snow, it was a mess. And we finally get to the end of winter. We think everything survived. We're super excited about that. And then emergency vehicles had to access the field behind us and ran over that poor tree and just snapped it. The tree that we thought we were going to lose, that we like made it through the winter, got run over by a fire truck. So I don't, that one's okay that it happens, and if emergency services have to get in and they're that close to your property, worth it. I don't even care if it was a bigger loss. That's what insurance is for. But the first issue being the snowmobilers, the trespassing snowmobilers, not all the snowmobilers, is we need complete property fencing because the property stakes just aren't doing it, and the trees are getting totally covered in snow, and what is sticking up looks like weeds. So we just, I was heartbroken and angry. I was angrier than I was heartbroken, but I had some very big feelings this year when it kept happening.
Yeah, well, we put a lot of work in putting those trees in, and then to see the tops of them just get run right over top of the snow when there's no reason for it. There's no reason for anyone to be driving through here other than they just decided to.
We're half a kilometer off like a major trail, so it's kind of like, why? But, we've kind of covered why. I think it's youth and it's the youths.
The youths.
The local youths.
We used to have people heading across the front of our property.
Right in front of the house.
To avoid, I guess, the difficulty of going through the ditch with the snow plows, the lumpiness in there. And we put in the orchard last year, which have white T-posts as supports. So that was sticking up through the snow. So we were worried someone was going to get impaled. So we need to just get things fenced so we don't have to worry about anyone coming in and the liability of that. Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys know, but in Canada, we are not protected under any kind of castle. Nothing. None of that. If someone is doing something crazy illegal on our property and they get hurt doing so, they can sue us. Yay. So it's an extra level that we've kind of got to watch for, which is outrageous and crazy and frustrating. But super excited to get the whole property fenced for lots of reasons. We've got Kenzie, we've got the dogs, we've got, clients' dogs. We're going to have, animals escape, right? It's a thing that happens. So, if we've got our ducks and our geese and our chickens and everything, it's inevitable. Something's going to happen, and it's nice to have things then contained. We chased a goat last year for somebody local here all over Tarnation. Fencing's great. We want fencing. So, yay. Next one. So, last year, we decided, while we were looking at the property and different division lines, that we were going to build something that we're calling the wall. So, yes, just like Game of Thrones, we want a north-south division on our property. And to go into permaculture, these are going to be our closer zones, closer to the house, and then divided, going into, the wild north of what's going to be a little bit further out, like our zones 5 and stuff. I don't want to quote exact zones right now, because we have it written down somewhere and it's not in front of me. But our further zones are going to be further, and we're going to have a wall with a nice gate. We're going to call it Castle Black. And we put in the trees. We put them in crooked. It's a straight line. It's just cockeyed the wrong way. And it's species that we've decided we don't actually want there. We've changed the species that we want. So we're going to be getting tower
poplars. So columnar poplars. You decided that you've wanted a column poplar of some sort for a long time.
Very long time.
So we determined that's actually the best place for it, and unfortunately we had already thrown trees there. So thankfully most of them are willows. So what we're going to do is we're just going to chop them off at ground level, dig a hole somewhere else, and bury them halfway, and they'll grow. So I'm pretty confident about that.
Yeah, so the whole idea with this line is that it's going to provide a slight visual barrier, but it's more adding than it is taking away. So the idea isn't that it's a windbreak, it's not that it's a visual screen, really, because we are placing them far enough apart that they're going to have a couple feet in between them. But it's a really cool look that I really, really love, where you can look through and you see, all these trees, and you can still see what's beyond it. And we want to see what's beyond in our pasture and stuff, but we like the wind baffling, and it's a nice look. So it reminds me, there's a tree, I want to say cypress, and I'm probably wrong, but this is something that I saw in Italy. I've been to Italy twice, back when I wasn't paying to travel, and so a long time ago, and it was something that I saw quite often in these windbreaks, is these column trees, and it's really stuck with me, and it's something that I wanted to recreate eventually. and I wanted Lombardy for the longest time, but zoning was an issue for us. Lombardy was too high.
It was, I forget what the issue was. I believe also the soil type wasn't ideal. So we found ones that are even hardier and resistant to some of the things we're going to have to deal with here. So it just seems like a better bet. We will have to make sure that we're staking them, most likely. Otherwise, your whole line of perfect straight tower poplars are going to be like that. So
They look pretty stupid.
We'll have to stake them, and we'll definitely have to make sure we're just dead on, arrow straight line of trees. Otherwise, it's going to look cockeyed. So
yeah, so that'll be a thing. We'll laser level. We'll have to buy a new tool. And actually measuring for the property, because like eyeballing it when you've got a property this size is just nope, bad call. So yeah, cool.
What we're going to be doing this year also is setting up for a vineyard. It's going to be partially for wine production, but also edible grapes. Probably 50-50, maybe even leaning more towards the edible grapes. So,
and honestly, like cooking wines, if we're going to be real on that.
We're going to be mirroring where we have the garden beds right now over to the other side for just the look of having it kind of even and balanced out that way. So we knew we wanted to put something there, and one of the things we're putting there is the vineyard. So we're going to this year we're going to be putting in the wooden supports and finalizing exactly where stuff's going, probably make the decisions about what vines we're going to be getting for next spring. And
we really haven't even started. It's something we know we want. Have we done all the research? No.
Possibly cover cropping.
Yeah. It was the pumpkin patch last year. So where it is, it's mirrored the ditch. So we've got this like random drainage ditch right in the front yard. Funny story about how we found it, actually. We'll have to add that in sometime. So that's what it mirrored. So it's kind of this like long, skinny bit. So we're going to have to get creative, and it won't be the most efficient because we have to go east-west, eh? And it's like a north-south line, so
it will be inefficient on posts, most likely. We'll determine. We might completely change our mind by then. We might think that was a stupid idea.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out the exact layout when we get there. But we know we're going to be preparing not to put it in this year, but for next year, the vineyard.
Yeah.
So going along with the vineyard prep, we're going to be also putting in a hopyard in that same area, probably at the northern end of it, because we're going to have to use the height. And we'll figure out exactly what supports, but we know they likely have to be tall. And then I know there's systems of wire or rope coming off of them, coming down from a cross wire between posts. So we'll determine exactly which hops we want for beer brewing and selling locally, friends and family. But we don't know exactly which types we want anyway, so even if we had it fully prepared already, we wouldn't be getting hops yet because we don't know what we want. So over the next year, along with preparing that area with the supports and all that, we're going to determine what the varieties are, and a lot of that's going to have to do with making sure that we can brew beer that doesn't taste like cardboard.
Yes. I guess the first batch isn't going too terribly well, is it?
There was something wrong from the start. I will determine what that is, and the next one will be better.
Yeah. So we are also going to be making a berry yard. So last year, we thought about this last year when we were putting in our garden beds. So we have these awesome white raised garden beds that we got for Costco. It was Costco? I think so.
It was Costco.
Really easy to put together. Cheap too, and durable and white. And we do like the color white. And we put them together. We got it all done, and then we realized that we hadn't really taken into account berries in any of our plan. And we started walking the property, working on some other areas, and we realized that we have exactly the right amount of space opposite. So we've got our like septic bed in the middle, and we've got our veggie garden over here, and then we can put our berry garden over here. So we're going to be getting more of those beds. We almost just went out and bought, another whole bed, and then we were like, okay, maybe we should just like sit on this for a year and think about it. And as it is, I'm glad we waited because there's some berries that aren't going to do the best in raised beds. So we're still trying to figure out layout and everything, but we have the area kind of ready to go. We have our color scheme ready to go, of course, always. And it's going to be a big thing. More berries than we ever need, but that's kind of the idea with everything that we're doing. We want to be, like, my goal is I would love to be able to provide for our friends and family and the community as well. I mean, at least enough that we could be in a bartering situation, you know? I mean, like, that seems like a good thing for me. I think you had more technical stuff on the... Ow! Are you serious right now? Dick. She's, like, stabbing my kneecap. So I'm trying to hold her paws so she doesn't. Look at this savage... God.
So, for the berries, we're going to have berries all over the property at some point, on all sorts of shrubs, in our food forest kind of area, as well as just in our windbreak.
So bad.
So there will be berries around. This is going to be a more managed area. Strawberries, blackberries, raspberries, your standard stuff. Maybe Saskatoons may be in there. They might be in our less managed area. Blueberries. So some of those are canes, some of them are bushes, and the strawberries are low-lying stuff. So we're going to need different setups, and then the management of those, the different things you do in the pruning. But all we know for sure, other than the general varieties we're going to do, is that it's going to mirror the other side. It's going to fill that space nicely with stuff that we can eat and dehydrate and store and do different things with.
I so much regret. I can't.
Well, you may just have to move the obese cat.
Okay, you gonna be nice? Can you be nice? This cat is not, like, she's gotten nicer with age, but, like, she wants to attack a plumber. Like, it's just, she's just not always that nice. So, we worked on a trail last year. I say trail, it, like, is a mown path through the weeds. And it's at the east side of the property. And what started to happen when we started to make this, this was kind of one of those accidental, like happy accidents that have happened here. There's random trenches, there's random rocks, there's random dens. I meant to say that with the hopyard. There's like this huge friggin' like man-eating den in there that we have to fix. But there's big things that we couldn't mow through. So our path started to take this really cool meandering thing going on the east side. And we wanted a food forest somewhere. And what we've decided to do is take that east side and kind of cut it so that the path is just doing its thing, and that entire strip on the east side is going to be food forest. So, not managed, really. Like, once it gets going, it'll be its thing, and it's going to be massive, like way bigger than we could ever possibly need. If you're not familiar with a food forest, the idea, briefly, is that you have essentially 7 layers of food-producing plants. I mean, like, all the way from your trees to your understory. So we're going to be putting them in, and what we kind of envision doing is going for a morning walk, because we do try to walk it every day, and being able to, like, collect different things that are in season. And, I mean, either we have a bumper crop of something, and we've got some extra time, and we're going to go out and, like, collect all of it and process all of it, can something, whatever it is, or it's just food for the wildlife. Like, it's this really cool thing where if you have time to deal with it, then you've got this huge resource. But if you don't, it kind of takes care of itself, and it's nice to have more food, and it's different varieties, and like some things really don't need a lot of management, so it'd be nice to get it out to where it doesn't need that management, and I mean, most people aren't really even going to know what it is, which is kind of cool. It'll look just like a windbreak and a cool path going through, and like sunflowers and stuff. Like, I don't know, we're going to make it kind of cool. But again, we're still in the research stage of that, so we are going to be working on it. But mostly, I mean, we're probably going to be just, making a hard line, being like, this is exactly what's happening here, doing some research, probably starting to kind of beat back whatever is there, because right now it's really, really thick, like weeds and pasture grass and stuff. So we have to deal with that before we can plant anything at all. And we're going to do shrubs on the east side of the path to kind of start it off and get some privacy. So
I suspect that, where we'll get this year is we'll probably knock the weeds back, define exactly where stuff's going to go, start deciding exactly what the plant types are going to be and where they're going to be, and we'll probably be cover cropping just to kind of keep the grass and stuff out of there. And a lot of place holding and finalizing decisions will be probably as far as we get this year. And then, I mean, it's quite possible that we'll end up at a nursery and buy some of the plants and put them in also.
Oops.
Yeah,
we did that all last year. It was kind of crazy.
I think that's honestly quite likely that we will end up getting some of the stuff, but it's not at the top of the list. So this year we're going to be upgrading some of the processes, some just minor things that are going to help things out. So
we already got new internet. Thank God.
New internet's a big thing. It's funny because some of these things have very simple solutions. This entire winter, our process was that I would go to the duck coop, I'd fill up the water at the spigot, and I would then have to walk back to the spigot to put the bucket back on top, because as everyone knows who's done this sort of thing, once you get any sort of freezing rain or just wet-ish snow, it'll melt on those spigots and then it'll freeze solid.
It's just done. Like, ugh.
You can't do anything with them anymore. So you got to keep the bucket on top. So I would go back, put the bucket on top. Also, we didn't put the food containers at the coop. Like, of course, that's where you put them. We were thinking keeping them a little bit more sheltered from the wind, but now that we have a better fence and a better coop, we could have strapped it to it. There are things we could have done. So we're walking to and from the coop with, scoops of feed. And
put a map in.
I probably had to walk 2 or 3 times the amount of time, distance that I would have to if we had done things properly. So we're going to rearrange stuff. I don't know if we talked about it in Coop Upgrades or anything, but the feed, PVC feeder, we're going to add to the side of the coop, or wherever we're putting the feed. We'll decide all that sort of stuff. Just so that we can feed from the outside of the coop, pour it right in there. It'll be several days worth of food, as opposed to filling the little dishes outside. That'll be super helpful. And also having storage for the bedding at the coops as well. Yeah. So we're going to figure all that out. Again, this winter, if we need a new bedding, I had to go to the barn and then repeat my whole path and bring the bedding back and lug it across the snow that you're sinking into. But yeah, we had 2 buckets and 3 spigots, and we'd have to lug water from spigot 2 to the spot where spigot 3 is in the chicken yard, and then walk back to that second faucet and put the bucket back on. Even in this scenario, if we had just at any point in the winter bought a 3rd bucket, I could start the day walking out with a bucket and just replace, when I fill one up, I'll replace it immediately with the other bucket that's empty and just do that all the way along. And that would have sped things up. I wouldn't have to be backtracking on every single one of them every morning. We're going to be doing some earthworks this year. Yeah. So we'll see how far into these we get. But the things that we're looking at are we're going to dig a small garden pond. We're first going to do a tester hole, make sure that the land will hold water. I'm sure it will, though. It's clay-based, so I think it'll do fine. We'd like to decide where we want. We have a general idea, but we'll start a garden pond using the backhoe on Squirrely Dam. And we will also be at least marking out, if not starting on a swale that we're going to put in on our hill or around the base of the hill. And we'll decide exactly what we're planting there. The general area, it's going to be kind of more of a forested area that we're going to start making, but there'll be successional things and food producing plants in there also. But the swale, we're hoping will slow down the water and do a lot of good on the property in general.
And that's 21 things.
That's 21.
Are we done? No. We have more things to talk about because you're getting bonuses. But that is technically 20 things we're going to be working on. You're going to be seeing other things. We've already discussed 4 different projects that were not on this list that we're definitely doing, like the tractor house. We're going to be working on the infrastructure that we need for the livestock that we're bringing on in 2022.
Well, that'll be a whole other video, but we'll decide that for sure. There's lots of things on our radar. We know we're going to do bees at some point. It might be 2022. We'll probably do some stuff to do with that.
Bases. Build
the base that has to be sunk into the ground so the bees don't blow away.
Also getting show quality cayugas. We love the breed. Love the breed. And we want to not cayugas, silver apple yards. Yeah, you're like, what the hell? silver hopyards in my head. We love, again, we haven't had the cayugas yet. Like, I love them to look at them on the internet, and I've seen one once. We're also looking at pigs. We thought pigs were going to be this year. We still have some research and some figuring to do with pigs. We're kind of stuck between doing straight runs. Is it straight run if it's pigs? Straight run,
meat run.
Meat run at Tamworth's, because really, I mean, we eat bacon. I also absolutely adore coonies. I would love to have them.
If turkey poults exist over there, then we'll probably be getting some turkeys. If they don't, then we won't.
They're just scattered out. Like, we found a shovel in the grass the other day. I mean, like...
Our third or fourth shed we'll use as a shed.
Yeah, because again, we do have rats in this area. And a cat bite.
Yep.
I know, like, Buddy down there's got raccoons. 2 down has raccoons. 1 up has raccoons.
Got rid of them.
We got 13, and most of them were got under the kitchen sink. So do with that information what you will. Yeah. And we are going to do a greenhouse.
Squirrel size 1. And we're going to be spending all the time we have doing stuff. And I may have scotch taped, because I couldn't even find duct tape, scotch taped a steak knife to a broom handle.
Also chased a man out of the barn.
Does your cat eat that thing?
Raven and fox war that goes on every year. Like
an adult rat that'll jump at a full-grown man stuck to it with eyeballs popped out and stuff. Jack Russell just lives under the sink. Yeah. So 21 things plus some bonus ones for you.
And stories. Who doesn't want stories?
And stories.